Welcome to the 4 new items from Märklin Tricks and LGB. We have once again put together a colorful selection of wonderful models for you. And as always, please note that the new items shown here are just hand samples.
There
are plenty of iconic locomotives. Just think of the Class 103 or the Class 194. And now Märklin has a locomotive that belongs in the assortment. There's no question about that, right? Right, we already mentioned it in an earlier video. There is currently a locomotive that really has the potential to become an icon. The Euro Dual from Stadler, or Euro 9000 as the multi-system version is called. Yes, it embodies exactly what we said. Power on 6 axles, a fascinatingly great and modern design, and it looks great. It's a real highlight when this locomotive passes by. You're making 2 versions of it. Can you tell us a little bit about both of them? We are adding both types, Euro Dual and Euro 9000, to our product line, and we want to present both types to our customers right away. As its name suggests, the Euro Dual is a dual or hybrid locomotive that can run on catenaries electrically as well as diesel electrically on routes without a catenary. This has the enormous advantage for railway companies that they no longer have to change over when they suddenly encounter a route without a catenary. The Euro Dual single-system locomotive, therefore, has a larger diesel engine, which means it can also be used on longer routes. The Euro 9000 is the right choice for those traveling across borders. It has 4 pantographs on the roof, but still has a diesel engine on board, which is slightly smaller than that of the Euro Dual. This has the advantage that this locomotive can actually be used to travel across Europe. Which locomotives have you chosen? In the first announcement, we naturally have the traffic red version from Deutsche Bahn as the Euro Dual. It should be noted that it was not purchased from Deutsche Bahn. The locomotives belong to the European log pool, for example, the company ELP, which leases most of the locomotives in Europe, including those to Deutsche Bahn. It is wrapped in traffic red. Of course, it looks great when it's on the track. As Euro 9000, we have a Dutch variant in the first announcement. This is the Railforce 1, which also has a very attractive design. It is wrapped in the grey-black tones of the Railforce 1 and really looks impressive. Let's talk about the pantographs. I don't think they remain stationary, but can be raised and lowered. As you know from our detailed locomotives, the pantographs can also be raised and lowered digitally here. I would particularly like to mention the Euro 9000 in this case, because it is a real highlight that all 4 pantographs can be raised and lowered digitally independent of one another. The metal model, which weighs over 600 grams, is powered by a centrally mounted motor that acts on both trucks via cardan shafts. The roof ventilators are functional and can be switched on digitally. A giant perfectly recreated in model form. Nothing more could be desired. Thanks for all the great details, but I think you have yet another treat in store. With a locomotive like this, you naturally ask yourself what can really be implemented in the model. While planning the locomotive, we noticed that there is what is known as coupling space lighting. In the prototype, this has the advantage that the shunter or locomotive driver who is supposed to attach the cars when it is dark at night does not need a miner's lamp on his head, but can instead illuminate the coupling area with a downward-facing lamp. Awesome! Both locomotives will also be included in the Tricks range and feature a buffer capacitor. What a contrast! From freight giant to tranquil branch line. Here we come to what is probably a very slow train. I'm just saying the Spalterbockel.
So ist es. Das ist sozusagen
That's right. It's synonymous with Bavarian local railroad romance, so to speak. It was actually a fairly insignificant line 7 kilometers long from Georgsmünd to Spalt, hence the name. And the main workhorse until 1963 was the 98.3 series, better known as the glass box. The locomotive 98307, true to the original with triple headlights, comes with a really great Bavarian local railroad train. There are 2 passenger cars of the Bavarian Type 3 and a combined mail and luggage car, also of Bavarian design. The glass box is equipped with a buffer capacitor, and the housing is made of metal-filled plastic. Now enjoy our pictorial journey featuring the legendary machines of the 98.3 series. The locomotives with a jack shaft were in service until 1962. Only the 98307 has been preserved and can be viewed in the museum in Neuenmarkt, Wilsberg. Club members receive a discount on admission there. The glass box was designed for single-man operation and traveled on numerous branch lines. Our train, which will also enrich the Trix product line, is set in 1957. All cars have interior lighting and multicolored interiors. Thanks to the buffer capacitor, unsightly flickering is not an issue. A beautiful train. Six-axle vehicle for heavy loads. Locomotives that earn their daily bread in freight train service are usually anything but sparkling clean. This also applies to the Class 151. Märklin and Trix are now adding another variant to their half-O range. As you can see, it's been hard at work.
Mein Gott, sag ich mir, die hat ja schon einiges erlebt.
My word, this locomotive has seen it all, hasn't it? We have seen Orient Red relatively frequently lately. The problem with the Orient Red paint on the prototype was that it faded over time. So together with MHI, we have now come up with a beautiful variation because we want to display this particular look of an extremely faded locomotive. The locomotive also shows signs of hard everyday use. It has quite a bit of dirt, both on the roof and on the sides, and of course on the front ends as well. However, it was in for a checkup at the factory. If the paint was in very poor condition, or if a label had to be redone, they simply touched up the area with new Orient Red paint. This locomotive shows this wonderfully with all the repaired areas on the sides. And then there's the dirt from hard everyday operation. So it's a really great eye-catcher. Fine DBS 54 type pantographs complete the picture. They can be raised and lowered digitally. The engine room equipment is also new. Of course, the metal model has a buffer capacitor. A set of 5 chlorine gas tank cars, which are aged ex-factory, is available to match the locomotive. The T3000E is available as a variation. It is now designed as a VTG car and loaded with 2 removable containers at Märklin. The Trix counterpart carries 3 interchangeable transport units. All functional folding tie bars are already installed at the factory. Thanks to the included accessories, semi-rigs can also be loaded. It's about to get very emotional as our heart rate noticeably rises.
Ja, das ist schon, als wenn man einer Königin die Aufwartung machen würde.
Yes, it's like paying homage to a queen when you see this steaming steel dinosaur hauling out of the depot. The Schorsch is completely different from the others with its extravagance. When you see the curves at the front, you could say that the East has looked to the West, because the Black Swan, the 10 series from Krupp, also has this massive front and semi-streamlined shell. This locomotive has it too, and when it pulls out and drives onto a turntable surrounded by ordinary black and red steam locomotives, it is the star, as if to say, look at me, I am a native of Baden, I have a special train to haul. That's also the beauty of it. You have that icing on the cake again, especially in terms of color. It's so great.
Wir sagen dazu auch der Laubfrosch.
We also call it the tree frog. It is the 18314, and this time it comes in the version that was in service the longest with the VSM in Halle. When passenger cars were manufactured in the GDR at the end of the 1950s for export to Russia and tested at a maximum speed of 150 km per hour, it was decided to send this machine to the Reichsbahn repair workshop 7th October in Zwickau and subject it to a comprehensive reconstruction. It increased the maximum speed from 140 to 150 km per hour, and the locomotive got several other classic modifications.
Und eben diese klassischen Umbauten, die diese Lok eben dann bekommen hat. Und dann hat diese Lokomotive 1962...
In 1962, this locomotive left the factory in Zwickau still painted black. We already had the engine in Gauge 1. However, people realized it would get lost in the uniformity of the other Reichsbahn locomotives. At that time, Max Baumberg, head of the VSM in Halle, hence also Baumberg's best, was just like Theodor Düring in the FRG, the father of the 4H. What Düring was in the FRG for the 18323, for example, Baumberg was in the GDR for the 18314. He really fought to get this engine. Then it was there, and people said, well, it should also match the color of its actual purpose. And so the locomotive next to the 18201 was then painted green.
Dann grün lackiert.
Let's just enjoy this unique engine in its vibrant new colors. The wheels are a feast for the eyes. It has 32 functions, including engine lighting. And the engineer even operates the side brake lever. Great! Typical, the Caledonian brim and the chrome ring on the chimney. The locomotive is made of die-cast zinc and fine brass parts.
Das ist also wirklich alles fein abgestimmt.
Everything is finely tuned to real operating procedures, and that makes playing with the Gauge 1 even more exciting and realistic.
Und erfahrbarer machen.
Our French neighbors also have some remarkable engines. Take the BB-22200, for example, whose pleasant design diverges from the usual head shapes. As it is a multi-system locomotive which can be recognized by the different contact strips on the pantographs, it was used throughout almost the whole of France. A successful new design from Märklin and Trix. When the gentlemen from DB Sicherheit are on duty, they also ensure that special occasions are not disrupted. Here we admire an engine freshly painted in Oriental Red, retro paint, and christened in Göppingen. During the IMA on September 19, 2025, visitors can even experience the locomotive christening live. It's the 181-218 from Schlünz Eisenbahnlogistik. Its small counterpart will be available from specialist retailers with immediate effect, and it will be able to prove itself during its tough everyday operations. The metal model is available from Märklin and Trix. It naturally has a buffer capacitor, and the roof pantographs with their different contact strips can be raised and lowered digitally. We wish the Göppingen all the best. in its real life and, of course, in half-O. Who doesn't know Märklin magazine? It has been keeping Märklin enthusiasts up to speed for 60 years. But this half-O model of the 185 series will not only delight readers of the magazine. It is presented in a fictional design, with the sides of the locomotive designed differently. A real eye-catcher. A treat in Z-gauge. Here we are depicting the transfer of the V60 from the German Federal Railroad to the German Federal Post Office. At that time the V60 was painted in the then new Federal Railroad colors of ocean blue and beige. Only the DB cookie was removed and the number changed. For example, the classic postal logo was added to the side of the locomotive and the running locomotive number, in our case 4. However, it remained ocean blue and beige, and it comes with 3 covered freight cars, which are also labeled as German Federal Post Office cars. These silver coins can be used to create a classic local train. The cars are being shown in their Era 5 design for the first time. The matching locomotive is a Class 143 locomotive. A ballast car in real bronze, a continuation of Märklin's successful Z or Z investment casting edition. The model has a transparent protective coating. The garden is all abuzz. There are actually 2 diesel locomotives. We'll start with the new design that we already presented at this year's Historic Mobil in Zittau. That's the L45H. It is a locomotive that was built in Romania, in Bucharest, at the 23 August Romania factory. For example, at Faur, F-A-U-R. It had the series designation L45H. Hundreds of these locomotives were built between 1967 and 1985. Later, when these locomotives were needed on Saxon routes to replace steam locomotives and operate work trains, the Zittau Narrow Gauge Railway SOEG, the Saxon Upper Lusatian Railway Company, decided to purchase such a locomotive in 2009 and have it converted to suit German operating conditions and, let's say, painted in the colors of a Reichsbahn V100 and added to its fleet as 199-018 in accordance with the Reichsbahn numbering scheme. The locomotive was handed over to the company at the 2011 Historic Mobil event. And there we were 14 years later, standing on a stage to present the 1-22.5 model. You can recreate prototypical trains with the right matching cars from the LGB collection. The second is the 251 series. Exactly, the locomotive that was supposed to initiate the change in traction on the DB narrow gauge railways in Baden-Württemberg and did so from steam to diesel traction. The locomotive was built by Gmeinde & Co. in Moosbach, Baden, as a licensed version of a locomotive built in 1958 by MAK in Kiel. There were 3 engines for 75 centimeters, V51-901 to 903. All of them have survived to this day. Probably the best known of these engines is V51-901, or EDV numbered 251-901-5, as it was known on the famous Oechsle-Ochsenhausen-Warthausen line, and later on the Bottwartalbahn from Marbach to Heilbronn. It was then sold to the Steiermärkische Landesbahn in Austria. And in 1999, the former operator of the Rügen narrow gauge railway purchased the locomotive. Since then, it has been in service on Germany's largest island. And this is to the delight of tourists who want more than just steam blowing around them. The LGB model delights with a furnished driver's cab, fine detailing and numerous light and sound functions. The diesel locomotive sound can also be heard in analog mode. An engine for leisurely trips on the Garden Railway. Unmatched to this day. The TEE color scheme of the 103 series. the classic color scheme of the 70s and 80s. And then there's the Class 112, the classic Rheingold-Rheinpfeil locomotive. It has to be said, with its pan-screes and handrail gutter skirt, truly classic. This new design is very detailed. The body is made of die-cast zinc. The legendary Rheinpfeil can be recreated with these two car sets. Then we have another locomotive that you've done quite a bit of work on. It's the series 112. Yes, of course. But then in the later era, of course. We are now making it in era 6, among other things, in traffic grid. It is based on the 143 series or X243 from the Deutsche Reichsbahn in the GDR at that time. The main difference to the 143 is, of course, the headlight. This is the first thing you notice, because the 143 has huge lamps at the front, and this one is more delicate, with a triple headlight. This model is also a new development. The train destination display in the front window is a nice detail. That was a sample of the top new items from Märklin, Tricks and LGB for the fall of 2025. We're sure you've already found your favorite model.